I think you're paid very well to be comfortable when other people are uncomfortable, to have those tense situations. I'm just about to reiterate the same things, like make sure you're keeping your strength up, make sure you're keeping up high quality relationships in your life. You know, diet's obviously the low-hanging fruit for me. I've not been disciplined with my diet. If I don't fix that in the next few years, it's not going to look good in my 60s, okay? So I better fix that while I'm in my 40s. So that's on my to-do list. But even then, I'm like, I have so much momentum with social group and money right now that, like, it's very easy for me to rationalize, like, eat what the fuck you want to eat and go get your fucking stuff done and keep building the momentum that you've made. It's like a Fibonacci sequence that you're familiar with that. Fibonacci, yeah. It's like a Fibonacci sequence that's just bigger, 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 bigger. And I was laughing at myself this afternoon thinking about that, thinking through the math of that, and also thinking like, well, if you maintain that rationalization, then those resources get bigger, 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 but you'll also die 10 years earlier. If you don't change your diet, you'll also die 10 years earlier. So, so then I literally, and just by myself, I wasn't talking with anybody about it. I was then trying to think through the math or what the equations of that would look like, of discounting at what point would I have the more money if I continued the momentum as is, through those Fibonacci sequence, or if, and died 10 years earlier versus reduce the momentum but live longer. And then I just found myself laughing at myself, thinking about, as if the prize should be to die with the most accumulated resources, So there's several levels of absurdity and laughter in there, but that's a thought I was having earlier. So I find myself being so myopic about a few of those things because those are the things that I felt like I lacked the most as a child. That social group and the financial resources, those are the two things that I wanted most when I was a child. So I just spent my whole fucking life working to get those couple of things, and everything else is tangential to that, But, I also have the wherewithal to laugh at myself, or at least identify the absurdity of some of it. Like, at a point in time, there should be a diminishing marginal utility that comes from that, and a person has to rationally pivot and go work on some other areas too, So I imagine, my guess is that you have some elements of that as well, that you worked so hard on a couple areas that now that you have great momentum and you see the momentum increasing and the results increasing, maybe it's difficult for you to focus on other things or take them seriously sometimes. Are you experiencing that?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm laughing at myself in the process, but be aware of the point where it becomes laughable, Like, if I never made another dollar, I could still do just about whatever I'd want to, It's like, I have to do it on somebody else's jet instead of my own jet is like the difference, I don't give a shit about a boat, but I could already, travel anywhere I want to for the rest of my life, eat anything I want to for the rest of my life. I have fantastic living situations. I've had a bunch of houses in the past. I don't even have a desire to have a lot of houses. I like to have like one nice place and maybe another good place. But I really like to just travel, and I like the variety or the change of scenery. So I'm not the type of person that craves having like 3 or 10 houses or something. So I had 3 in the past. I kind of don't even want that anymore. I'd like to have one really great place and maybe a second one that's very nice, and then just travel a lot. So just think that through in your own life of like, under what circumstances it just becomes silly. It's just an absurdity, and maybe you should be allocating your time to, whatever it is for you, But the fun part, I think the part that could give you like a technical note that would help is like, do actually make a little list. You don't have to spend a lot of time. If you spent 20 minutes alone and just thinking, pen and paper, like what do I really enjoy with a woman, or what does that fantasy look like that gets you emotional or you feel warm or happy inside? It'd give you a little more context and a little more warmth and humanity when you go talk to the women out here, because it does feel mechanical, very outcome oriented, and I think they feel that, and I think it's your number one obstacle at the moment, that if you felt a little different inside, if you had that vision, it would change your emotions, and if you had that internal emotion, it would change your communication style. And if you change that communication style just a little, they would communicate very differently back to you. I very much, a few bullet points, and they might sound random and non sequitur, but I think that's kind of what you asked me anyway. But I really don't give a shit about my short-term emotions relative to my long-term outcomes. And everybody else seems to. The whole goddamn world seems to care about that more than I do. And my one weak spot about that is, my diet. But other than that, I'm extremely, extremely disciplined. Just, boom, 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 boom. I don't mind losing sleep. I'm not afraid of violence. I don't want violence. I'm not going out trying to start a fight with somebody out here. But I'm not afraid of violence. I'm not afraid to die early. I'm not somebody that a normal person wants to compete with, If I set my mind to something, I'll lose sleep. I'll sacrifice other things. I'll work harder. If I put my mind on something, I'm going to work hard. I'm going to work hard. And I have a lot of other resources to deploy as well. So, and I'm not trying to say that I'm cool. I'm just saying, like, there's a self-sacrifice that sometimes isn't even rational. But if I focus on something and decide I'm going to do this, then, yeah. How many days do you work this year?
All of them, and the extra work too.
Yeah. 366 days. How many days do you anticipate working in 2021?
365 or more.
Yeah, and there's not a day off. I don't take a day off. I haven't taken a day off for years and years. I haven't. On my birthday, he spends my birthdays with me frequently because we work every day. So, on my birthday, I might take, 8 hours or 10 hours of leisure time, but I'll still do phone calls and text and email. So it's still, 6 hours of that is still going to be productivity, And for some people, they just don't like that. I like that. And part of that, part of that is just what I said about childhood stuff, is like, I grew up in an environment that was so poor. Sometimes you didn't have food before you go to sleep, which probably didn't help my eating habits as an adult. But sometimes you didn't have food when you're going to sleep. People were so stupid and violent and awful and nasty that I really have a strong drive inside to be far away from those environments, So I'm not saying this is healthy. I'm not saying you should do this. I'm just having a very sincere and open conversation with you that, that definitely helped me accomplish a lot of goals. Definitely helped me accomplish a lot of goals. And I don't give a fuck if I'm liked by other people or not. Some people just want to get along and be agreeable and be liked by people. If you're a guy, you have to be willing to tolerate little social pressure situations. If I can't negotiate entrance to the fucking luxury store where you go and spend thousands of dollars, I bought this coat there. The fucking coat is like $3,000. But if you can't fucking negotiate entrance into a fucking luxury store where you have a history of spending, thousands of dollars on stuff, like, how the fuck would you negotiate something important then? If you're not willing to tolerate little social pressure things. And when I go to Germany, you'll understand this culture. I'll know that, many times they want you to pay for water. Many restaurants, it's just the custom there that you buy, still water or sparkling water. And I always say, no, it's free water, tap water. And, sometimes we got to go to 4 restaurants before I get my fucking tap water. And I'll take a group of people and we'll go to 4 restaurants before I fucking pay for water. So, or I'll have the boys call ahead and negotiate free water ahead of time that we have a large group, we'd like to go there. We'll spend, 1,500 euros, but we're not paying a penny for water. We will have free water. So that, on one hand, that probably sounds just idiotic. And on the other hand, even little things like that, if you're willing to have those, tolerate pressure, tolerate those little difficult things that other people would just comply. And on one hand, bro, I don't think their fucking hand sanitizer is poisoned or something. There's nothing wrong with me just putting my hand out and getting some fucking alcohol on my hand. I'm just doing that because I hadn't had my social pressure situation for the day, and I needed to check the box and be difficult with somebody. I had to have a difficult situation in my day, and I hadn't done it yet. So I'm just like, I wonder what happens if I refuse to put the rubbing alcohol on my hand. So it's not like you're going to die or something. But like, well, you can't come in, sir. Like, we'll see about that, And so Yeah, and a lot of girls will be annoyed by that. I do that every day. There's something every day. Sometimes several somethings come up, but I make sure there's something every day like that. That like, I think you're paid very well to be comfortable when other people are uncomfortable. To have those tense situations and just be very calm, like utterly calm. Like it doesn't, if there was like a heart rate monitor on you, it wouldn't change your own heart rate, Not like visibly calm to others, but you feel, a little distress, but just like utterly calm. And, that takes years, by the way, because I wasn't always calm like that. I was like, well, I'm doing the thing and we'll see what happens, but, I'm 22, so I'm a little nervous about it, So, but you do that for a couple decades, and man, I save a lot of money in negotiations because of that type of shit. And, and it's the sort of thing that you and I were, Chuck Liddell here and I were talking about yesterday, is like that, being comfortable when other guys are tense or trying to give you a hard time about something, like, it's hard to put words to it succinctly enough, but you could just glance at somebody or look at somebody, and it does a lot more communicating than words could in the situation, because it's a very sincere indicator to another man about the type of man that you are. A guy can't fake that, I'm smiling because I had one today that popped up. A guy sent me a bid for installation, like fabrication and installation, and like. It's 23, I looked through the numbers. The final order was 23 slabs of mostly quartzite and like some granite and some marble. And quartzite's harder to work with. Like it's helpful to have water jet equipment, because if you cut quartzite with a diamond saw, like a wet diamond saw, the shit chips out. The quartz particles explode more than marble is much easier to cut with a saw. So there's a legitimate liability for them to be cutting the quartzite that. The shit breaks, it's more brittle. It's super hard. It's harder than granite, but it's more brittle. So there's a legitimate liability that, they want to cover themselves. They want some buffer in there if they fuck up one of your things, because they probably will, But he sends me a fucking bid for like $74,000 for, to cut the stuff and go put in some countertops and some slabs on a wall, And it's like $74,000. And, I imagine I'm going to end up paying about $40,000 when everything's said and done. So I have a couple appointments on Tuesday to go talk about this in person with a couple other fabricators on Tuesday. So I never responded to the email. Sent me an email a couple days ago with that bid, and then he wrote back today he's like hey, have you had a chance to look at that? What are you thinking about going forward? And I just wrote back, I'm not thinking about it at all. Submit a reasonable bid if you like to continue the conversation. That's all I said. I'm not thinking about it at all. Submit a reasonable bid if you'd like to continue the conversation. So, well, you were saying some of those things about firmness of price or something that I kind of laughed inside thinking about that. But
I think it's also knowing your worth, knowing the value of your time, and if you're confident in that and know what that is, then you're not going to negotiate about that, because if they're hiring you, what you're going to bring to the table and what you're going to invest, and if you know what that worth is, then you're not going to compromise, or you'll be less likely to.
A lot of things are opportunity cost also, and you understand that. There's a lot of things that are just opportunity costs that, like, somebody's like, well, that's expensive. I could have somebody else do that for blah, blah, blah. But, have somebody else do it. I can't afford to spend time on something. I don't have the time,
You don't want to be the low-cost provider.
Just don't even have the time,
Right.
I just don't have the time. Don't even sleep enough. Don't have the time. So if it's not very valuable to me, just doesn't make sense.
Great.
One more I was going to tell you that you'll get this. Half of the room won't. Half of the room will understand it. It's like I really, when you look at money and business, like scalability of making a lot of money, the publicly traded companies, because of the absurdities that people pay, price earnings ratios on things, if you can be involved, there's nowhere to make money more than you can make in public stock markets, in my opinion. because they pay crazy. You know, fucking Tesla's PE ratio is like 1,270 or something. It's like 1,250 or 1,270 times earnings. You know, how long would the fuck would you? How much optimism could you build into a fucking stock price?
1350 now.
1350 PE ratio is 1350.
1349.
1,349 times earnings. So, you know, what that means is if you made $1 million in your business, if you made $1 million, you know, profits, then you got $1 million. But if these guys made $1 million, they got $1.35 billion because it's trading at fucking 1,349 times earnings. So if you made $1 million in your business, then it's $1 million. But if you had that same fucking thing here, then it's $1,349 million. Think how fucking crazy that is. And, you know, I think about that when I love buying distressed assets. I love when there's you never see me happier than when we have a good recession. People that know me for a long time, like my girlfriend says she hopes that you know, if I'm dead, if I'm old and dying of cancer or something, that she hopes that in my last year of life maybe there'll be a good recession to perk me up, that I could still make some investments that might make money after my death. And she's probably right, because I get so excited about that. But and if you think of the way that my brain is structured, it's like when other people are panicky, I'm very calm, I'm very logical and structured. You have that type of ability as well. You know, very, very structured, very logical. And you know, you think about that in public markets where, you know, things that were happening in fucking March and April last year now. You know, things that were happening just in March and April. When the fucking S&P, I talked about this with a couple of the guys last night. When the S&P 500 was at 2,200, I said it's going to be at 4,000 in a year. It'll be at 4,000. And you know, I have that recorded, by the way. We were talking about that last night. He and I were talking about it, and he's like, "Are you sure you said that on the recording?" I'm like, "I know I did." But then I asked a couple of the guys on the Mastermind or that was in the mentoring program. I said, what did I say the fucking S&P is going to do? And yeah, now it's at fucking 3,750 a few months later. And now J.P. Morgan and Goldman Sachs and Merrill Lynch and another one that I'm not thinking of right now, they're all calling for that, you know, another 18 to 26% upside. Citibank also, you know. So, you know, now all the big companies are saying that it's going to be 4,400, 4,600. At that time, it was 2,200, and they're like, oh, it's, you know, it's the end of the world. So, you know, anyway, I'm very good at that sort of thing. And that's not once. It's like, you know, it's like at the end of, you know, at Halloween time, the guys that asked me, I don't go recommend stocks to people. I don't say, hey, guys, go buy this for sure, you know. I just share my 2 cents about it. I say the things that I think are good. I say the things that I think could be fucked up. I say, you know, I'm buying it because I think this and this and that. It might be this, it might be that. I might be wrong. Certainly I've been wrong before. For sure I'm going to be wrong again. But this is what I think about it right now. You know, do your own due diligence. And I've said that about Nordstrom, and then I bought a bunch more Nordstrom. And then I went from $12 to $31 in like 5 weeks. So some of you were beneficiaries of that, I think. Did anybody else make money on that Nordstrom thing? Yeah, a few. So, yeah. So, you know, and going back to our macro thought about, like, you know, money opportunities, is like, you know, every 7 or so years historically, about every 7 years on average in the U.S. markets, some insanity comes about that people panic, and you can buy high quality. Well, the way Warren Buffett says it, you know, you could buy $1 for 50 cents. You could pay 50 cents for future dollar bills, you know? And it's even better than that. Like in some of these cases, you can pay 15 or 20 cents for dollar bills. A couple years later, it's a dollar bill. And I love paying 20 cents for dollar bills. And in the last recession, I did that with casinos. In this recession, I've done that with retailers and some malls. It's got to be the high quality malls. If you look at malls, forget about the shit malls. It's like they're fucked. They're super fucked. They talk about malls as being like Class A, Class B, Class C, Class D. Class A malls are looking pretty good to me. And you know, you were at Fashion Show earlier. Anybody else go to Fashion Show Mall yesterday or today? What's it look like over there?
Crazy.
Does it look like the death of retail? Did you see the retail apocalypse happen? It's hard to walk through. It was hard to walk through there. You know, there's if you walk from side to side and just get a lap across the whole thing, both floors, there'll be some friction points where you have to slow down or be cautious about other people. You can't just walk through, So there opportunities like that, like, bro, you can't go. It's really hard. It's really hard if you built your business to make a couple $1 million a year. That's nice if you made a couple $1 million in profits, but it's hard to then you make a couple $1 million in profits and then turn it into $10 million in a few months' time. After that, like, it's hard to do that in a private business. In fucking public markets, and I'm not even talking about leverage. We're just talking about buying an asset. I'm not even talking about leveraged portfolios. I don't love a lot of leverage. Yeah, I like my margin account, and I'll utilize my margin account here and there, but I don't like heavy leverage on shit. You can get portfolio margins account that give you 6 times leverage and even on stocks, but I don't want 6 times leverage. I don't even want 2 times leverage, because the time that you're wrong, you don't need to fuck up your whole net worth and destroy it. So I imagine I'm sure you know enough about finance. You get what I'm saying, yeah? Yeah. So I don't want like a super leveraged but yeah, I don't know a better way to multiply your net worth. I love making money in entrepreneurship. I love investing in that in other things that can multiply. And you could have a lot of leverage in real estate in a much safer, lower risk way. But real estate prices don't fluctuate like publicly traded stocks or other global assets like that. So that's my 2 cents. I think you can do that reliably over time. Skills that you have already or natural inclinations that you have already, and some of the skills that you've earned, you may be well suited for some of those type of things yourself. So that's my 2 cents about it.
22, and I wish I'd done this program years ago, because I already missed out on years of compounding gains. Don't want that to happen to you. Now, if you're a young person watching this, the money that you're too afraid to invest in yourself with is nothing compared to your wasted potential. And if you're an older gentleman or lady watching this video, you don't want us young guys to come eat your lunch. To sum it up, do not delay on your future success.
Thanks for watching. Success is not for everybody, and it may not be for you. If you are or are on your way to be a millionaire or multimillionaire, probably going to want to spend time with my clients. Probably going to want to have a personal relationship with me so we can accelerate that process, get you living up to your maximum potential, earning your maximum wage. You're going to want to click that follow button. You're going to want to click that bell and get notifications. Tune in every Friday. Tune in every Monday. You're going to love what you see. I look forward to having you as a client in the future.